What number 19 is? Where he at? Where he at? Because he ain't no factor. Look at his ass. He ain't no factor. 19 ain't no damn factor right now. Tell him before he talk that shit, he got to put that shit on first.
There's so much to dissect here, and I feel really bad for those individuals that watch this game, but I'm going to just jump into it real quick. Really quickly, I wanted to shout out our latest Mike Mafia member, Ren99. Thank you so much for joining as a Mike Mafia soldier to help support me create this content on a full-time basis. And on top of that, we're giving away a PlayStation 5 to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel. If you want additional entries, then follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! I've been saving this one image of Juju Smith-Schuster, this one quote that Juju made from the very beginning of the week, from the moment that he said it, because I had a feeling something like this would happen. Typically, whenever people talk trash, they end up losing. If you remember what Chase Young said about Tom Brady, saying that he wanted Tom Brady, I knew immediately that that was going to be the end for Chase Young. I don't remember the last time a player successfully talked trash leading up to a game and then ended up winning that game. And when Juju Smith-Schuster said this statement, that's when I knew for a fact that the Steelers were in some trouble. So let me give you some context to give you an idea of how this all went down. Earlier on this week, the Cleveland Browns were hit with a really tough hand because not only did their head coach, Kevin Stefanski, test positive for COVID, which is absolutely heartbreaking if you're a football team that is not favored to win a matchup in your first playoff matchup in almost 2 decades. But on top of that, the virus also made its way to the locker room, and as a result, cornerbacks Denzel Ward and Kevin Johnson were also sent to the reserve COVID-19 list. Safety Javonte Mofat was sent there as well, but another very important key cog to the Cleveland Browns was their offensive guard Joel Bitonio. And if you guys know the Cleveland Browns, their entire game is built off of the back of their offensive line and their ability to gain huge chunks of yardage through the ground via Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. As a result, Juju Smith-Schuster was feeling himself, and I don't really blame him because not only did the Pittsburgh Steelers decimate the Cleveland Browns 38-7 in Week 6, and not only did the Pittsburgh Steelers barely lose to the Cleveland Browns in Week 17, but you're facing a Cleveland Browns team that's without its former number 4 overall pick, their head coach that completely shifted things around, and a very important member of their offensive line. I mean, their 2 top cornerbacks are out, for crying out loud. How hard could this be? And Juju was feeling himself so much that he came out and said, I think they're still the same Browns team I play every year. I think they're nameless gray faces. They have a couple of good players on their team, but at the end of the day, the Browns is the Browns. I tweeted this picture out, bro, in the middle of the game, and here's the thing that just drove me nuts about this. I actually went out on a limb and defended Juju Smith-Schuster a couple of weeks ago for his whole thing about dancing on opposing teams' logos and doing a TikTok dance to Corvette, which, by the way, you know, I do periodically consume and post TikTok content. It's getting repetitive, Juju. You've done the same freaking dance on various logos and did the same freaking dance when the Steelers made it into the playoffs. Like, do a new dance at the very least, but I digress. After defending Juju Smith-Schuster dancing on opposing teams' logos week after week after week, it appears as though the lesson that was trying to be instilled within him by Mike Tomlin when he finally talked to Juju Smith-Schuster and told him, hey, you're gonna have to stop dancing, didn't really hit Juju's head. Because doing this pre-game celebration before you even won typically brings a lot of bad juju, a lot of bad luck, if you will. With all due respect, he literally got pummeled by the Cincinnati Bengals after the last time he danced on an opposing team's logo. You would think he would have learned his lesson here and not talk trash before facing his upcoming opponent. Because before, when he was dancing on his opposing team's logo, I understood, you know, doing TikTok dances for growing your brand, growing your social media presence. Like, I'm a social media influencer. I get it. I understand why he would do that. But going out and talking trash about your upcoming wildcard playoff opponent when your team has not been performing well recently is just not what you want to do. But look, this entire commentary thus far has been an absolutely disrespectful one to Cleveland Browns fans, because what they did tonight was absolutely remarkable. The fact that they were able to come out here tonight with 3 of their coaches missing, a bunch of their most important key players not being able to play as well despite COVID, and go up against a Hall of Fame quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger and a fairly remarkable defense in the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and put up the performance that they did, despite everyone counting them out, with their special teams coordinator acting as their head coach, is not only extremely inspiring, but I believe a win like this is going to lift up the entire Cleveland Browns roster for many years to come. And I want you to all understand that the Cleveland Browns played remarkable football tonight, because you literally saw what happened when a football team was able to play good defense in the Chicago Bears versus the New Orleans Saints matchup, but not execute on offense. I believe the Bears had a chance to win today, but obviously they had their own miscues on offense. Their defense performed remarkably, but there's only so much a defense could give you if your offense isn't going. The Cleveland Browns were given a remarkable opportunity to succeed, and they took it. But Ben Roethlisberger was absolutely atrocious tonight, and I do believe it might be time for him to pack it in. And it's not to disrespect his career, because what Big Ben accomplished in his career, watching him over the past 16 years when he entered into the NFL during the 2005 season, that remarkable run he had when the Pittsburgh Steelers won 15-1 in his first year under center, all the way to the Super Bowls that he's won, and of course, the one that he's lost. That remarkable Super Bowl moment where he threw a game-winning touchdown to Santonio Holmes in the corner of the end zone, that's not stuff that you could take for granted. And without a doubt, out of every single quarterback in the 2004 NFL draft class, I believe he had the best career out of all of those quarterbacks. He had a better career than Eli Manning. He had a better career than Phillip Rivers. He was the best one out of all of them, in my opinion, and he was taken after all of them as well. But I believe if after putting up a putrid performance like this, which saw him turn over the ball the amount of times that he did, it might be time for Ben Roethlisberger to at least contemplate retirement. Now, I understand this take could be a little bit controversial and a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction in a season where he threw for 3,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and completed 66% of his passes. But a lot of the miscues that the Pittsburgh Steelers had tonight was a result of overthrows by Big Ben, was a result of interceptions thrown by Big Ben. And yes, his wide receivers did drop the occasional pass here and there. And yes, he did perform fairly well in the second half. But a lot of this, you could say, was on his shoulders, because if Ben Roethlisberger didn't turn the ball over the amount of times that he did tonight, then we would be discussing a completely different narrative in this video. But alas, that's not our situation. As masterfully as he played in the second half, it's how unpolished the Pittsburgh Steelers were in the first half that really cost them big in this game. It's almost as if they were the ones whose head coach got COVID and not so much the Cleveland Browns. So I don't necessarily think Big Ben's going to retire after this year. As a matter of fact, if he does, the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, that's due to the fact that they don't have a succession plan at quarterback at all whatsoever. But I do believe they're in a remarkable situation here to finally seek out Big Ben's successor, because although he performs like a legitimate pro sometimes, there are times that he really costs the Pittsburgh Steelers big, and tonight was one of those nights. I can see the Pittsburgh Steelers potentially drafting a player like Trey Lance, or even going after a player like Kyle Trask, A player that could eventually succeed Big Ben, but needs a year or two to at least watch a Hall of Famer play in front of them before really taking the reins for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As for the Steelers, they have a remarkable future ahead of them. They have a very good defense, a wonderful wide receiver core, a pretty good offensive line, an inconsistent head coach that has won Super Bowls, but hey, at least there's stability there, a fairly marketable wide receiver, and a really good up-and-coming wide receiver in Chase Claypool, and not to mention a Hall of Fame quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger. An offseason will only help this team get better, but for now, their season ends here. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about what we just saw? Who do you point the blame finger at if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan? Is it Big Ben's fault? Is it Mike Tomlin's fault? Or were you just simply outplayed? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our upload tomorrow on Justin Fields.